Arm yourselves, America. This is Defenders Live. We're live on Mojo 50. Live free. Tonight, I have with me the chairman of the California Conservative Party, Mr. John Matthews. John, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing just great. How about you?
Well, I could be better, but I can say that it is quite good on my side. John, first off, you're in California. God bless.
Well, you know, right now I feel like I'm in someplace like Alaska or something. We've actually had 3 solid days of rain out here. We seldom get that. You know, out here in California, if you have like 1/10 of an inch, you got the news reporting on, you know, storm watch, the kind of thing. But it's been raining pretty hard here for the last 3 days.
Really?
And yeah, you know, thank God for global warming. You know, it's
That was an amazing tie-in. Very good job. Very good job. But before we get any further, I want to let you guys know about a simple little company called Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is the only cell phone company out there that does not support companies that you don't support, like Planned Parenthood. What I mean by that? Well, they only give to charities that you design. And here's what I mean by that. If you give your money to Patriot Mobile today, go to patriotmobile.com or go to 1-800-A-PATRIOT. That's 1-800-272-8746. You go there. You sign up with them. They buy out your contracts, $500 a line or $1,500 per account credit. And every dollar that you spend with them, a small portion of it goes to the charity of your choice and nothing else. They get the pay. They get the service, you get the service from them, and you also get to stop and defund Planned Parenthood and other terrible organizations today. Why are you waiting? Go now. Actually, wait. Go after the show. And go to patriotmobile.com or call them at 1-800-A-PATRIOT. That's 1-800-272-8746. Let them know that Steven over at Mojo sent you. John, what is the status of the Conservative Party in California?
Well, we're if I had to use a term in 25 words or less, we're breaking ground, and that's where we're at right now. Where the obstacles before us are big. I mean, this is not going to be a walk in the park. We have probably the biggest issue we have here right now in California as far as establishing another party is getting recognized by the state as a party that can put a candidate on the ballot. Out here in California, although there are probably about, at my last count, about 27 different political parties out here, there's only 6 that are actually recognized by the state of California and therefore can put an actual candidate on a ballot.
Can I guess?
I'm sorry?
Can I guess which ones are actually on the ballot?
Oh, sure. Go for it.
Okay, so we got Republican and Democrat, obviously, right? Libertarian candidate.
Right.
Okay. Green Party.
Right.
Okay, all right. The Independent.
Right.
That's 5. Then, they have to be some crazy nutball things. The Communist Party.
No.
No, they're not?
No.
That's amazing.
No,
Success.
I don't have the name. I don't have them in front of me. I haven't memorized the list, but you got 5 of them. 5 of them are recognized.
That's pretty
good. The 6th one, I believe, is the American Freedom Party. That's
okay,
the
American
one.
Freedom Party. They're
Right,
kind of similar to.
That's the 6th one. Okay. So my memory just came back to me there.
There you go.
So what we're doing. And when I started setting up a strategy for this, what I thought was, well, first you got to look up the rules. The rules state that in order to have a party recognized, you have one of 2 things you can do. You get a petition signed with about 30% of signatures of registered voters that voted in the last gubernatorial election. So that would mean out here we had about this last election, we had about 11 million voters. So I would have to get about 30% of that to sign a petition.
Yeah.
Well, that runs, not only is that that's a sizable task, because now you have to have people go out and get the petition signed,
Right.
which means you've got to hire people, which means you've got to money.
You got to spend money.
You've got to spend money. And politics, money greases the wheels, and people don't like to admit that, but that's what it's all about. The other side is to get 10% of the electorate that voted to actually go to the state registrar and sign up as a member of the Conservative Party.
Okay.
So that would be, for us, that would be about 700,000 people we would have to actually get to do that.
Oh, that's nothing. In California? Come on.
Well, that's about half of the illegals that vote. So it's not. But so what I thought was, we're working on that. We're working on getting that. Right now we have, to be honest, we have about 1,250 people actually registered with the party. We have some hot cities like Bakersfield, some places down south, a little bit farther north than Bakersfield, that have a noticeable number of people. And we're in the process of trying to organize those people, to get them out, to get them on the ground and get them out there and trying to get something going on. But because we have an open primary system here in California now, there's another strategy, and it's the one I'm actually pursuing with a little bit more vigor.
It's the jungle primary, right?
When we have any primary out here in California, they're open primaries now, which means the top two win.
Whoever it is, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what party they're with.
They could be both Democrats. They could be whatever.
Right. Like our last senatorial election, we had DeLong and Feinstein, and they're both Democrats, both extremely liberal, and they ended up winning the primary, so they ran against each other
which is silly.
In November.
Which meant Feinstein won.
Yeah, because she's got the money. Right? Money greases the wheels. And DeLong is he's of the Ocasio-Cortez breed. He's a hardcore liberal progressive, believes in democratic socialism and stuff. The establishment out here isn't quite ready for that, although we have Gavin Newsom now, who is, as governor, who is definitely into that mode. But the point being, getting back to the numbers here, what we decided we needed to do was what I noticed when I was doing research was that there are actually more people in California registered under no party preference than there are Republicans. And we have about 25.5 of the voters registered here in California are on no preference. 25.1% are Republicans.
Right.
So we have more people going with no preference. There's no rules that says we can't put a candidate up as a no preference candidate. So that's what we're striving for right now.
Okay.
When the primaries come back, although there's a move right now to repeal Proposition 14, which is in 2010 put us in the open primary system.
Okay.
One of Governor Moonbeam's last little gifts to California before he left.
Governor Moonbeam.
Yeah, to give us that open primary, and so we're kind of pursuing that in terms of trying to get a viable candidate. I have a couple of people on my mind already that I'm talking with, people that I've done radio with in the past, people that are doing radio now. Tim Donnelly, a lot of people recognize that name. He was an assemblyman out here for a while.
Right.
He is also the founder of the Minutemen down on the border.
Okay, gotcha.
He ran for governor back in, let's see, it was 2000, I think it was 2012.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha, yeah.
Yeah, he ran and was leading the polls by double digits over Neil Kashkari the last 2 weeks of the election. Pete Wilson, Darrell Issa, Rip and Romney got together, threw money behind Kashkari, and he ended up winning the primary by 3 points. So
can we stop right there for just a second? I just want to ask a question. Now, you said people that you knew from radio and things like that, which makes me hopeful. But can the Conservative Party bring out a person who has some charisma? who's not just like a deadpan. Like,
Well, I think most conservatives I know are much more charismatic than anybody else because
well,
we're more radical.
right, and I understand that portion. I get you, but some for some reason I don't get it. Where in a lot of ways, in a lot of places, if they get into the media spotlight, they suddenly deaden out, and like you'll have.
Well, that's because you have to really have an understanding, a thorough understanding of who runs the media. Now, everybody thinks it's the liberals. It's not the liberals running the media. It's the deep state running the media.
Okay.
And the deep state is apolitical. They're not politically affiliated with anybody.
Gotcha.
So they're the ones that call the shots, and they're the ones that put up the money.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ones that make everything happen. So when you have anybody out here, like for instance, our last governor election here, we had Travis Allen and we had John Cox. Travis Allen was a much more charismatic type of person. I went to some of his rallies and I went to some of John Cox's rallies. John Cox is about as exciting as a bag of laundry. Yeah. He just doesn't have that oomph to get you off the floor.
Yeah.
But he has the money. He put up a lot of his own. He has a lot of his. He put $4 million of his own money into the campaign.
Okay.
And ended up in an open primary. Ended up being one of the two. So he went against Gavin Newsom. So he, even in that, to that degree, he overcame a very large obstacle because everybody thought it was going to be Gavin Newsom and Antonio Villaraigosa, and Villaraigosa kind of blew himself out of the picture. Cox came in and was able to put money up and pulled it off. Got an endorsement from Trump. And Trump, I laugh at Trump's endorsements because I don't think he even knows who he endorses.
No, I don't think he does either. He just puts a name out. He sees a name and he's like, oh, that guy.
I think he heard of John Cox as a businessman. So, oh, yeah, one of mine. Okay, so he endorsed him, that kind of thing.
He does business. All right, here we go.
So, but there was, Travis Allen is much more charismatic. He is, when he's speaking, he's a spark plug. He fires people up.
Okay.
And so that was my, so there are people out there that are like that can do it. It's just that they don't fit the mold of the powers that be.
Okay.
And, they'd rather have a Mitt Romney. See, you can gauge,
that guy.
You can gauge it this way. The big attack against Donald Trump is that he is unorthodox, that he's inarticulate, that he doesn't talk like a politician.
Well, he wasn't a politician. No,
he isn't. And that's exactly what made him popular. Right. Is that all those things that the establishment looks at and says, oh, this is not how he's not presidential, meaning he doesn't know how to lie out of the side of his mouth. So
is that really presidential though?
Yeah. Well, every president lies. Every single one of them.
That's for sure. It's just he's bold-faced lying to you, and they're all like sideline. Yeah,
it's just a matter of how much they have to lie and how willing they're willing to go deep into the deception.
Depends on what the meaning of the word is.
Yeah. Depends on whether their butt's on the line or not. That kind of thing. So, but Trump, Trump was not charismatic, but he tapped into the vein of what's out there, and that is anger. In the same way Obama did. I kind of look at Obama and Trump to some degree as the same type of personalities. They're very organized in what they're going to do, and they know what they want to do. They just have a different way of doing it. Obama mastered the art of sounding like a politician and yet making you think that he wasn't.
Right. And not to cut you off here, but one of the things that that everybody needs to point out, that I need to point out to everybody, making a different way is the best thing that you can possibly do. Sounding different than everybody else, being different than everybody else is the best thing that you can do, not only in the business world, but also in politics. And when I think of changing the way that you think, changing the way you work, one of the best things that I think of is Tar River Arms. TRAguns.com. Use the promo code MOJO and my name's Steven. Let them know I sent you. If you go to Tar River Arms, they are the best virtual gun store. Not only are they the best, but they are the first virtual gun store. They have a full 3D interactive experiences with everything they do. Plus, the zoom in feature that they have with the high quality cameras that they use, you can see the fingerprint on the muzzle if they've accidentally left one. It's amazing. They have some of the best guns out there at the. They do have them at the best prices. I know. I've looked. So if you know about a gun that you want, go check traguns.com first. Not only are they veteran owned and veteran run, but coming soon. What is it? The 21st. Wait. No, it'll already be the 21st. It is a layaway. Layaway and consignment options are available now. Layaway and consignment options are available now. You can go and get them. You can get the gun that you want, the gun of your dreams. And by the way, they are some dreamy guns. And not only that, everything that they do, most of what they can send you, they send all the prices are already knocked in. So no brokerage fees, no additional fees for shipping or pickup or anything else. It's already included in the price. Go check them out, traguns.com. Sorry, I didn't mean to roll on there for you, but you were saying, so you were talking about how they speak differently, how they approach things differently. It really is a big issue. You have to be able to get yourself outside of everybody else.
Well, yeah, as I was saying, Trump was able to tap into that anger element the same way Obama was able to tap into the anger element on the other side. Mm-hmm. And the thing was, Obama was very capable of presenting himself as a centralist. One of the biggest arguments I get from liberals when I make comparisons between Obama and Trump, which I do often because I think it's the best way to illustrate the hypocrisy of the media, how they're looking for anything and everything that Donald Trump does. You know, yeah. I mean, we know when he passes gas. It's just they're so they want everybody to know that this guy is such a terrible human being.
But here's the thing: we already know because he's tweeting at 2:00 in the morning while he's on the toilet. We know that he's doing it.
Oh yeah, well it's like it's kind of complicated when I try to get into this thing, and I don't want to get into any type of psychoanalysis or anything. But
thank you for not doing that.
But these are two types of very strong, dominant type of personalities that know what they want and have sat down and spent enough time figuring out how they're going to get there. And Obama decided that what he was going to do was, I call him a chameleon. He's a commie chameleon. He is whatever he needs to be on any particular day.
That's good wordplay, by the way. Very good wordplay.
And people fall for it. They went for it today. Everybody calls him a socialist. I'm kind of going off on just a little bit of a tangent here, just I can make my point. Mm-hmm. People call him a socialist, and he calls himself a centralist, and he's really neither. He's a Muslim. I'm sorry, he's not a Muslim. He's a Marxist.
Well, I mean, he is.
He was Muslim raised in that environment with Jeremiah Wright, who was a proponent of the Black liberation theology, which James Cone, the creator of it, said it was based on Marxism. So, yes. That's who he really is. Mm-hmm. But he was able to deflect in a large part because the media would support him, and the media would not report things that he screwed up, and would only report the good stuff. And even when he was caught doing something, they were able to play it off in such a way that it was somebody else's fault, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but he had a very dominant personality, in so much that he knew when he went out there. I remember him one time talking about, people asked him, why do you use a teleprompter all the time? He says, because I know what I want to make sure I know what I'm saying. If you ever listen to him without a teleprompter, he sounds like a bumbling idiot.
He stutters.
He stutters and he hesitates and everything else. Where Donald Trump, he probably has a teleprompter, but he very seldom follows it.
Look, you can hear the difference in the man's tone. I mean, you have Trump, and he's like, "Oh, it's great, it's wonderful, it is so ecstatic. We're gonna do the best." And then he's reading, and he's like, "And today we're going to do the." You're dead, man. You're dead.
Yeah. Well, Trump talks like you and I would talk if we were sitting across from each other with a beer. Yeah. And that's the way politicians were in the beginning, because they were private citizens and they talked the way private citizens talk. So anyway, I know there was a thought behind that. I know I was going somewhere with it.
The dichotomy of strong characters.
Yeah, well, the point being is, oh, you were talking about charisma,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm trying to get back to here, is the idea that when we talk about putting up charismatic candidates, the Republican Party is not interested in that. The
Oh, no,
no, they're interested in people that will toe the line, and it doesn't matter. I believe the Republican Party has become a party that governs through complacency and complicity. They don't govern. They say, okay, it doesn't really matter whether we're in power or not, because our interests are protected. That's really the way they think, and people don't. It's hard to tell Republicans that. So when I getting back to the very first point that I was trying to make, and to answer your question about what we're doing and how we're doing it here, that is the biggest obstacle to overcome, is to sit in front of a bunch of Republicans and tell them everything you know is wrong and everything you've been thinking is not true, and you need to start thinking about something else. It's like, why do you continue to elect people that you then turn around and tell me don't represent you? It boggles my mind that people do that. And
well, here's one of the questions I need to ask specifically on that point. Okay. Is there actually a Republican in California? Is there a person who actually looks at the standard of the Republican Party and says, here's the standard, this is what I follow, this is what I believe? Or are most of them just kind of wishy-washy in the first place?
Most of them are wishy-washy, but there are a few out here. Tom McClintock, Congressman Tom McClintock, is a very solid conservative. John Morlock, who was elected 2 cycles ago, or for senator, there was a special election out here, and he got elected. Very solid conservative. Okay. Tim Donnelly, who I mentioned earlier, when he was an assemblyman, is very conservative. But they rub people the wrong way because of that, because the majority of the Republican Party out here are very moderate types. They may be a little fiscally conservative. They're not really too concerned about the social issues. They're not really worried about whether abortion is taxpayer subsidized. They're not worried about same-sex marriage or anything like that. They're worried about their next reelection. That's what they're worried about.
That's every politician, though.
Yeah. So they've become. It's not the party of Lincoln. It's not the party of Reagan. It's become just another arm of progressivism, and nobody's willing to call it that.
Thank you, Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah. So I do that when I get out there. I tell these people, this is how you do it. I mean, when you're talking to the Republicans, what I do, you have to lay some kind of premise with them to try to get their attention. So what I normally do is, if I'm talking to somebody from another state, I'll ask them okay, who did you vote for in the last election? And believe it or not, more times than not, they really can't tell me. If I say to them, I remember sitting at a table one night with two couples from North Carolina. And so I asked them, I said, well, who's your senator? And they couldn't tell me. And I said, well, who's your governor? And they couldn't tell me. So I said, so who are you voting for?
And they couldn't tell you.
I vote for the person with the R after their name. Okay. So if that's the way you're doing things, then have you not figured out that things in North Carolina aren't going quite the way that they should be?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, then whose fault is that?
That's the person who votes the party line.
The problem's with the electorate. It's not with the candidates. They're running. We elect them. So I had to enlighten them. Well, Lindsey Graham is your senator, and Nikki Haley is your governor.
Well, that's South Carolina. South Carolina.
That was before she took over at the UN. But,
yeah.
It's a couple of years ago.
Yep. That sound right there means that we're going to a commercial break. Folks, we'll be right back. Here's the best thing about this. I could sit here and we could talk for the next 2 minutes because it's just a 2-minute commercial break. There's going to be commercials rolling on the other side, and nobody is going to hear this unless they're on the Facebook feed. So if they're watching the video, they're going to hear this. And also, by the way, when you have time, come back to the Mojo 50 page. That's where this feed is. It'll be easy to spot. I'm gonna put I'm gonna put a fancy title on it. It'll be Defenders and then a fancy title, specifically related to this topic. Come back to it and check out the comment section. You're gonna love it.
Comment section. Where would I find that?
On the Facebook feed.
Okay.
When you get it through everything, like after this ends, just go back through and look through the Facebook comments. I'm sure it's going to be a delight for you.
Okay. All right.
And by that, probably funny.
Well, while we're sitting here doing nothing, I'll call that up here in front of me here. Where do I find it? Is it DOA Radio?
No. So if you go to facebook.com, go to facebook.com/mojo50 mojo50.
Mojo Audio. That's funny. Mojo.
All right, we're about to hit up the break here, and it'll hit through. So. And we're back. You're listening to Defenders Live. Tonight I have with me Mr. John Matthews, the chairman of the California Conservative Party. God bless you. God bless you. You can find us pretty much anywhere that you can find podcasts. We're on Google Play now. We're on iTunes and Spreaker and SoundCloud and Stitcher and all of those podcast and media formats. But if you want to hear us live, if you want to hear everything going on, you go to iHeartRadio and you go to the Mojo 50 radio setup. You can listen to us live. Plus, you can hear all of the best of everything going on. The Doc Thompson Show for the morning, the Daily Mojo. You have Matt and Ron over at the Conservative Cartel. You've got Jeremy Hansen and Izzo. Myself. You've got Watson Prunier. You've got Adrian Slade. And the list just keeps on going. Over 16 hours of live radio daily. Oh, don't let me forget, midnight, every night, on the weekends, Rocky Stucci in the Situation Room. That man is amazing. You got to listen to him, hear him out. And if you can't stay up that late, go back to the podcast. It's right there on Spreaker. Listen to it. It's amazing. Anyway, if you want to watch us live right now, it's Mojo50. We're over on the Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com/Mojo50, we are there. You can talk to us there. And we're also on the MeWe for commentary backup. That was a mouthful. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of a turn here. We've been talking about candidates. We've been getting a little bit in the weeds about how everything's been setting up and how what you guys are trying to do and how you're trying to do it and things like that. But let me ask you, what is the standard? What is the stance of the Conservative Party? Explain it to people who don't know.
Well, are you referring to the actual platform?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty easy. I could actually what I would have to do is just call it up because it's rather extensive. But let me put it to you this way. If you were to read and look at the Republican Party platform, you would see it's very similar to the Republican Party platform.
Okay.
The difference is that we actually believe it. So,
all right. I kind of hit too hard. All right.
So, yeah. That's the difference. That's a big difference. Is that we actually hold to the tenets and the principles that the Republican Party says they believe in.
So when they say the party of Lincoln, you are actually saying the party of Lincoln.
Yes. Well, when we say small government or limited government, we mean small or limited government. We don't mean repeal and replace. We mean repeal. When we talk about the state sovereignty is a big issue with us. We believe very much the traditional federalist view that the states should have control over what goes on in their states. The federal government's job is to protect our Constitution and our borders. Okay. Everything else is they should be out of. I'd like to give people examples. Like people say to me, well, what if you were, it's the old scenario, if I was president, what would you do? Well, if I was president, I'd probably do what every other president does, and that's try to get something done in the face of all the adversity that doesn't want me to do anything. But what we would do is, for instance, when we talk about within the concept of limited or small government, mm-hmm. we believe in the abolishment of the IRS. We don't want the IRS. If there needs to be taxes for the infrastructure, then assign some. Now I'm giving you my solutions. I'm giving you first
right
what we believe in and how I would look at how
you would fix the situation to make it
if
right.
I was president. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're saying, okay, well, we don't believe that the IRS is a constitutional institution. Our founding fathers never made any allowance for collecting income tax. It was a voluntary thing done by the states. And if the states wanted to collect some type of tax and throw it the government's way, then that's the way it was originally set up.
Okay.
We survived in this country till the Civil War without income tax. And Lincoln enforced the income tax for the purpose of restructuring the country after the Civil War.
Huh.
And as government always does, once they get their hands on money, they decide, oh, this is cool, let's keep it. So they created the IRS in 1912. So from 1776 to 1912, we had no Internal Revenue Service.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden we need one. Well, why do we need one? Well, because government began to expand under Woodrow Wilson.
Massively.
Our first career politician, by the way.
Yeah.
Came out and said, okay, we're going to create a new world order through the League of Nations, and mm-hmm. we're going to start this taxation program to rebuild America, blah, blah, blah. So we say, let's eliminate the IRS. If you need to get some kind of taxes, my solution would be like a national sales tax. Okay. And so we say even the illegals have to pay some kind of tax. So we're a national sales tax. The states need to quit. The Department of Education is another thing I would want to completely abolish, and put it back in the hands of local communities. That the parents decide what their kids are going to be taught. Out here in California, we're dealing with all kinds of just off the wall, crazy stuff. Common Core, and now the big move with the homosexual agenda to start educating, indoctrinating our children on the acceptance of homosexuality, even trying to the point down to second grade now, encouraging them to, quote unquote, encourage them to explore their sexuality
and explore themselves.
Right. And be open to, different things and that kind of stuff. And, we can thank a Republican governor for that. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the one that initiated that. 13 different pieces of legislation went through his administration dealing specifically with that in our schools.
That's something that nobody would know about. Yeah.
Well, Schwarzenegger is one of those guys that I always, when he ran for governor, I voted for him because Gray Davis was a crook. But I always, in the back of my mind, I would ask people, how can one be a Republican that is sleeping with a Kennedy? It just, because who ruled that household.
That hit me. That hit me a little late. I'm sorry. That was a delayed reaction. I just that was yeah. It's true. So anyway, the Department of Education, we need to this whole idea of Obamacare. People are saying, oh, we want the Republicans' version of this, repeal and replace. Donald Trump promised us he was going to repeal it. He didn't say he was going to repeal and replace. Those are one of the things he's done or said that I'm really upset about. He's not following through with that. But I understand the adversity that he's going to have trying to accomplish something like that. We need to put it back in the hands of private sector. You open up the borders for interstate commerce. You allow international companies to come in with pharmaceuticals.
And that's where you get your competition. That's how you lower the cost of everything. The idea of allowing pre-existing conditions, that to me, I think, though, it's virtuous and maybe noble in intent, but not practical.
Right.
And it's just not practical. Of course, government subsidized abortion and contraception, those things. When did the government get in the business of licensing morality? It's just
it's not supposed to, right?
Yeah, but see, Republicans, there's so many Republicans. I'm telling you, Stephen, there's so many Republicans that when you say this to them, it's like you watch the light come on and they go, oh, gee, like I never thought of that.
Oh,
I never thought of it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, because that's not what's being pitched out there. What's being pitched is the Republican version of big government. And, and they're telling us it's small government. It's not. It's the same thing. It's just who's going to control the budget, if there is a budget. It's who's going to make the decisions, and who's going to hold the power, and whose special interests are going to benefit from it. So
what it really sounds like, we really need to have. What it sounds like is we need to have a beer summit. We need to have a beer summit. We need to sit down. We need to go get some cat coolers over at catcoolers.com. By the way, if you use my name, Steven, you get a nice little discount going on there. So you go to catcoolers.com, go get the beer. It's 10% off on the discount there if you use my name, Steven, Steven, and go get a beer summit. Go find some Republicans. Go talk to them, because if you don't know, this is kind of a libertarian station. So we're friendly with the Republican Party, but we're a little off topic there. But go there today, get the cat cooler, go get your beer, make sure everything's good to go. Go have a beer summit. And you know what? While you're at it, go to rightongame.com. The reason why? Because you and they will both love playing the game. Rightongame.com. Use the promo code MOJO50. You get 10% off. What is rightongame.com? Have you ever heard of it, John?
Oh, you talking to me?
Yeah, have you ever heard of rightongame.com?
I was listening to your commercial.
That's okay. No, I know. I'm just so mesmerizing. Yeah. But have you ever heard of rightongame.com?
No.
No. Okay. It is great. Listen to this. So just listen to the trigger warning. Microaggressions are contained in the box. If you are a millennial snowflake, you will be offended by its contents. Retreat to your safe space. That's highly recommended. Why rightongame.com? Because mocking the left feels so right. I mean, let's face it. Liberals are offended at everything. They have zero sense of humor. Why not make fun of it while you can and have fun with it as well? They have different categories like race hustling, wussification of America, Islam abomination, Hollywood hypocrisy, campus coddling, feminism follies. I can't even say that. Millennial entitlement, and so much more. Go to rightongame.com, use the promo code MOJO, get 10% off. I promise you'll have fun. But no, really, we need to have a beer summit. We need to have a beer summit. We need to go through these things, and we need to sit down with these people and get them to understand that it's not just we're conservative, and, we kind of generally believe these things. Oh, I'm a fiscal conservative, but not on the social. No. We don't need some lily-waisted pie in the sky, nothing. We need somebody that's actually going to stand up and do the things that you're talking about. We need a Calvin Coolidge, honestly.
Oh, I wouldn't argue with that.
I mean, we need a man who's going to sit there.
But you got to be careful who you invite to those kind of things, though, because I think some of these people are already stoned to the gills that are serving in office right now. So,
of course they are, especially in Colorado.
I really believe Nancy Pelosi is suffering from overdoses of Botox. There's something wrong with this woman, and
Are you saying she has botulinum?
Yeah. I mean, I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time, just making fun of people, but there's some of them that deserve it. There's no doubt about it. There's some of them that are just I don't know. And then, but then, like I said, elected officials are a reflection of the constituency that they represent. Mm-hmm. So you got to wonder what kind of people live up there in Frisco. any other district, the woman would not be in office. But it's like 70% of her constituency is the homosexual community. And her brother is a very staunch homosexual activist. So, I imagine it just kind of runs in the family. But in terms of how they perceive everything and how they look at everything. But
that may be true.
Back to the Conservative Party. Back to the Conservative Party.
Right.
I kind of lost the train of thought there, so you might want to tell me where you want me to go from here.
Here's actually what I wanted to talk a little bit about, because so the Conservative Party is literally the actual base of the Republican Party. It is what they should be standing up for, what they should be talking about, what they should be doing on a basis. Is that correct? That's basically what it is?
Yeah. You could say that the Republican Party is an attempt, or the Conservative Party is an attempt to resurrect the Republican Party. We're not out to save the Republican Party. I'm a firm believer and hopeful that with things going the way they're going right now, that at some point in time, the Republican Party actually implodes. And I think if things continue to go this way, that's what's going to happen. When you look, as I mentioned earlier, that the no party preference out here in California actually outnumbers the Republican Party. That same holds true in the national level. The independents outnumber the Republicans.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So what you see here is you see this trend of people getting away from something, but not knowing actually what go they want. So the idea is, I've always had kind of a joke about the independent party, is they're the guys that sit on the sidelines and call the game Monday morning, Sunday game Monday morning.
Armchair quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're very fickle. One day they love you, the next day they hate you, but they never take responsibility for anything that's going on.
Gotcha.
But I understand the mindset. If you're saying, okay, I'm abandoning the two-party system to go to something else, you don't want to be part of that. You don't want to be associated with it. So I understand that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to say, I tell people when I'm talking to groups, I'm telling them very, very staunchly, the Republican Party is dead. It's just nobody's pulled the life support yet.
So what you're saying is, like RuPaul, they're going by the way of the wig.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of respect for Rand Paul. Ron Paul had some things that I thought were a little bit screwy, but there was a lot of things he had that I really liked.
Not Rand or Ron. RuPaul. They're going the way of the wig.
I'm sorry. I heard you wrong. I processed that wrong there.
You missed it. Oh.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I completely missed that. It went over my head. Yeah, now in fact, it took me about 20 seconds to process RuPaul, who is it? Oh yeah, I remember. The
Way
drag
of the wigs. There you go. Oh, it just takes a minute sometimes. It really does. Okay, so you have that going on, and over in California specifically, you have some crazy legislation being pushed right now. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on it. I'm guessing I know where you stand on this, because if you're Conservative Party, basically the basis and understanding of the actual Republican Party, kind of very similar to a libertarian mindset, but taxing paper.
I'm sorry?
California, there's a legislation put into place. If you haven't heard about it, they are actually going to try and tax receipt paper.
Oh, well, they're trying to tax everything out here. It wouldn't surprise me at all. We've got
you got your water taxed, your rains
I'm trying to think of some of the latest stuff that they're doing here, so that you get an idea of just how bizarre it's becoming. They have outlawed plastic straws.
Yep, they got rid of that. They're good on that. Yeah.
We're no longer using plastic bags in the stores.
Only paper now.
You have to bring your own bags now.
Oh, you got to bring your own. You can't use the paper either.
Yeah, you can bring your own, or you can buy them. See, there's the special interest aspect of it. You can buy a plastic bag now, reusable plastic bag, and save the environment and all that kind of stuff.
Not made with real plastic. It's made with corn plastic.
Yeah, well, here's something when we talk about taxing. In this last November, there was a gas tax, 20 cents gas tax, and it passed. And I was just talking to a lady the other night. I said, I just for the life of me can't figure out why even a liberal would want to pay 20 cents more for a gallon of gas out here. Out here in California, 74 cents of every dollar goes to some tax.
Ouch.
So you've got environmental stuff. You've got, they got special blends of gas out here. You have a summer blend, you have a winter blend, and all this, and so that determines the gas tax and the all the processing and the regulation and all the other stuff that the government does out here. 74 cents for every dollar goes to some type of tax, and so I was like, I can't imagine anybody wanting that. And she said, what she told me was, this is the way they worded it on the ballot, is that people actually thought they were asking them, "Do you want the gas tax?"
Oh.
And they would say no.
I hate that.
But what it was saying on the ballot was, do you want to repeal the gas tax?
I hate that. It doesn't. They do it every time. Every time they screw with the wording and nobody reads it.
Right,
They're just like,
right.
Gas tax? No.
I call it the Gruber theorem. The Gruber theorem, Jonathan Gruber, the stupidity of the American voter. And people just don't. And you would think with the amount of money that was being thrown on the advertising of this during the election, that people watching TV could have figured out what was going on, but they don't. It's like I sometimes associate my really pessimistic side of me. I associate California sometimes with the movie with Luke Wilson in it called Idiocracy.
Yes.
And
okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but that is where we're headed. As insane as it sounds, that's where we're headed, where people can't even reason anymore, because they're not being taught to reason. They're just being taught to respond to the stimulus. Whatever you put in front of me, people respond to headlines.
Here's the cheese.
They don't read
Get the
the
cheese.
articles.
Here's the cheese. Get the cheese.
Yeah. Well, read your article when you go out on the internet and you read the headlines of the articles that are out there, and then read the article, and you'll find a lot of times the article has no bearing on what the title says.
Oh yeah.
It's something they're trying to sell you. Trump in his tweet storm says this or that. And you read the article, and it's not about that at all.
It's nothing.
But they got the headline out there, and that's all people read. That's what they respond to, and that's why I think that's a lot of reason why we have such volatility in the electorate, is because people really don't even know what they're reading anymore, and it's such a shame. So what we're trying to do in the Conservative Party is we're trying to restore some sense of order into how we think and the ideology behind what it is that created and drove the Republican Party for so many decades. And we're trying to resurrect it. We're trying to bring that back to a place where people can actually say, yeah, I'm a conservative, and actually know what that means.
Right.
A lot of time today, I ask people, I'm an inquisitive person, but I'm also kind of a person that when somebody tries to impress me with their intelligence, I go out of my way to find out just how intelligent they are.
You decide to press.
So, somebody tells me I'm a conservative, and I'll ask them, define that to me. What does a conservative look like? What do they sound like? What do they talk like? And I'd say easily 9 out of 10 people, what I end up finding out is they're not really conservative. They're really moderates. They just don't know it.
Right. But they're more conservative than the liberals in the area. So they're like, I have to be a conservative.
And that's about all you can say. They're conservative because they're against same-sex marriage, or they're conservative because they're against abortion, and that kind of thing. The Tea Party, I think, kind of created that a little bit, because the Tea Party doesn't have any central planning or any central message. And so what's happened is it's broken up into different elements. You got the Tea Party against same-sex marriage, you got the Tea Party against taxes, you got the Tea Party against abortion.
Right.
And there's no crossing over to a great degree, so that they can actually edify each other and get each other moving in a direction that where we have a common goal, we have a common direction that we're trying to go. And and then it's become very, very profit orientated. These Tea Party organizations are making a lot of money now. And so I think they kind of lost their way. I love the concept. I love the idea. That's really what Conservative Party is about taking back government and putting it back in the hands of individuals,
Right.
and restoring authority in the states,
Okay.
and taking it away from the federal government, so we don't have this collective thought that we all need to join the global community and drive cars that can only fit 2 people in them, and stuff like that.
Careful, careful, careful! You're coming into the nationalist mindset there. You're about to steer into nationalism, sir. No, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. You ever seen one of those cars after an accident?
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be sitting in one of them.
Yes, I have. I've seen them after accidents. They're not good, and it's not pretty. But then again, most cars nowadays aren't very pretty after an accident. They don't make them out of anything that's actually solid anymore. It's all crush and compactable.
Well, I was just rolling this over my head today. I was out driving around, and I was thinking, that what people really need to understand what's going on here in government is a term out there. You can look it up. It's called creative destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is it's actually the process by which you take the wealth of an industry or a nation or any entity out there, and you find a way to transfer it into somebody else's hands.
Okay.
And so when we talk about things like, global warming, what's the agenda behind global warming? It isn't protecting the world. It's getting you to buy a different light bulb. And it's getting you,
which is true. That's very true.
And it's getting you to drive a different car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting you to put less water in your toilet and that kind of thing. And, out here in California, we deal with that all the time. I get my water bill now. I get tiers. They cut it up in tiers. And if you go over a certain amount of water, they'll charge you more for what you've gone over. And then they send you surveys every month telling you how much more water you've used than your neighbor, that kind of stuff. So that's a collective mentality. That's a collective mentality. That's an Agenda 21 type thing where we're trying to engineer everybody into one little way of doing things.
So let me ask you this real quick. What is your take on the Green New Deal?
To me, it's an extension of what we were just talking about, creative destruction.
Mm-hmm.
It is another way of trying to put forth the narrative that we need a different industry in America. And that industry, of course, will be supported and funded by the special interests that take care of the progressives, because they're the ones who want to run that show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, we want everybody driving hydrogen cars. We want everybody driving, having solar panel heating in their home and all this. That's a whole new industry that we don't have to deal with the fossil fuel industry anymore. Now we've got all these other industries. We can't take the money from Standard Oil, so we'll just create another way of making the money funnel into our hands, into the people like Al Gore and people like that who are benefiting hands over fist by this narrative that we need to make everything green. It's ridiculous. The only thing we need green in this country is money.
Well, I mean, I like the trees and the grass. And,
we need the trees and grass. And here's another thing with global warming. That we have too much CO2 gas out there. Trees make that. Trees need that to make oxygen. So if we eliminate CO2 gas, what do? We cut down all the trees?
If we eliminate all the CO2 gas, we have to kill everybody.
Yeah, and so except for the select few that are intelligent and superior enough to survive.
Except they'll never have kids, so there's no procreation anymore. So
yeah, those central planners that can make the world function when there's nobody left here to function with,
right?
That kind of thing. Then they can have all the wealth they want. So
sure, because nobody else is going to fight for it.
And nobody's going to fight for it.
Nobody's going to care.
They'll fight for it. They'll fight for it. You think about the Rockefeller and the Carnegies and the J.P. Morgans back in their day. Everyone was a millionaire in their own industry, but it wasn't enough for them. They had to go after their competitors. And try to take even more.
They just had to make it all.
How much
to make it work?
How much money do you actually need in a lifetime?
That's a good question. You don't actually need that much money. John, how can people find you if they have any questions?
They can contact me if they go to Facebook. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Facebook.com /The Conservative Thinker.
The Conservative Thinker over at Facebook. John, it's been a pleasure to have you. Check the videos out. Check the comments down below, John. If you guys want to get in contact with him, that's facebook.com/The Conservative Thinker. John, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And with that, folks, that's another show in the wraps. Bye-bye.